Bueno, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días a todos. Muchísimas gracias por venir.
Thank you very much for attending the first session today morning in the Agora in Telefónica. You're going to be hearing about the Telefónica blockchain solution this morning. I would like to show my acknowledgement to the organization of the GSMA on Telefónica. Thanks for having enabled the new edition of the MWC. I'm sure it's been a very arduous task, so thank you very much to all of you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Seth Rodriguez, and I'm a blockchain specialist at Telefónica Tech blockchain team. This is me. This is a link to my social networks. If you wish to follow me, do not hesitate. I try and upload interesting content now and then. Now, what is my profile within the team? I'm a technical, and I am close to different companies and startups, thanks to my participation and thanks to me being the visible leader in the wire activation program, for example. I'm going to be talking about wire during my presentation. My role is to be near startups and helping them understand whether it makes sense to implement blockchain in their use case. And should it be the case, help them in the integration process from the design to the production process. So this is going to be these are the main points that I'm going to touch on my presentation, the history of the team. Secondly, I will focus on the benefits of blockchain that we try and capture and provide through our service. I will be introducing also our solution, TrustOS, and we'll see some successful use cases. As you can see here, my team was founded in Telefónica Research and Development. There we tried and find our value proposition. And at the beginning in 2021, we had a mature program and we launched Telefónica Tech. The team was set up in 2017, year when we joined Lystra, the first national blockchain network. During 2018, we carried out a market research and try and find our value proposition to see whether it made sense or not to implement it in blockchain. We did some concept tests with several technologies and platforms, and we soon realized that it made sense to implement blockchain and try and capture the value that the technology provides within the company. We're trying and capture the value that technology can provide within Telefónica. We launched some in-house projects that validated the value proposition. We merged it all in one product, and then we launched TrustOS, a very easy-to-use solution. In 2018, we joined Hyperlayer, which is a global code initiative by Linus Foundation with the aim of enhancing and promoting technologies, blockchain technologies in the corporate level. That very same year, we took place in the first edition of the activation program. In 2020, we launched the first projects with our customers that also reinforced our value proposition, and we validated our decentralized identity under an open source license. This year, we have been launching different concepts and different concept tests and different projects with IoT technology in order to identify devices and validate the data that they gather. We have signed an agreement with Allustre to deploy a private network for our partners, for our members, and there's something that I would like to underline. Forbes magazine included us this year as one of the referent companies at the global level in their Blockchain 50 list. In this environment, in this context, I would like to touch on the main point of this session. We aim at answering the following question: what advantages can blockchain provide to the business? Blockchain is a facilitator of the transformation process of digital companies, and this is possible thanks to the undeniable traceability of the operations stemming in the business operations. It has many advantages, but probably the fundamentals that these guarantees provide and that I always like to underline are the following. One, immutability. Thanks to subjacent cryptology of the technology, it is possible to validate information, verify its integrity, then traceability. Thanks to immutability, it is possible to recover the life cycle, the full life cycle of all the assets, and transparency. In this system, it is possible to verify information without having to count on a third party. So please bear in mind these three concepts: immutability, traceability, and transparency. So, in this technological background, and considering that many companies are aware of the added value that blockchain provides to their solutions, well, perhaps the problem that many companies face is that they don't necessarily have the necessary resources, or they don't want to invest so many resources in training. So we decided to focus our value proposition in a product, simplifying the implementation of new technologies. And that's how we launched TrustOS. TrustOS is a software layer in cloud that integrates blockchain in a very simple manner in their business processes. And this is done thanks to the abstraction of the subjacent complexity, no matter what blockchain network is below. So the added value of TrustOS is that it does not require any previous knowledge of the technology, because it uses a very natural language, it simplifies integration, and it reduces integration to a few code lines that any developer can implement, and it allows for third-party verification with no need of a trustworthy third party. The very same network allows you to do so. Now, TrustOS aggregates different modules, different functionalities in different modules, the most demanded ones in blockchain projects. So, let me give you an example here. With the traceability module, you can define digital assets that correspond to our real business assets, and we can trace all the different stages that the asset goes through, so that at the end of the process, we have a big picture of the life cycle of each asset. Thanks to the tokenization model, we can provide or build transferable knowledge within networks. If we wish to reach agreements between operations, between companies that do not trust each other, we would use the conciliation modules that provide automated agreements based on consensus. Through the certification module, we can issue certificates that validate and provide a very easy methodology so that any third party can verify the process that an asset has gone through. We have also a module based on integration with the IoT ecosystem at different levels, directly with the device and through the integration of the different IoT hubs that might exist in today's market. Let me tell you a little bit more about how simple TrustOS is to use. If we want to trace the life cycle of an asset, we have to create it by using a natural language in the sector and add information based on the process that the asset goes through. It's very important to underline "at" because information is never overlapped. In each stage, in each point in the value chain, the asset has a specific state, right? So at the end of the process, when the process ends, we can have access to the different states that the asset has been through and have a full traceability, a big picture of the traceability, right? So if we want to see the traceability of a transport process of a merchandise, we could know with no doubt about the different points where the transport has stopped. Here is from Madrid to Zaragoza in the example. So what is the added value here? Well, basically we use an open interface allowing us to define any device and any kind of information, all kinds of information rather. So we could define assets identifying IoT devices or vaccine packages or textile products or food products. We can define any type, all types of assets and information. So as I said before, if we want to develop a very simple verification system, we could launch a certificate within TrustOS. And what is the added value of TrustOS certificates? Well, we can use digital signatures to validate the certificate. Imagine that at the end of the process, the controller in charge of checking that the process has been running smoothly, you could add a digital signature to ensure non-repudiation. There is also a digital footprint. The digital footprint is unique and it identifies univocally the asset, and in this case, the asset is the content that we want to certify. So that, for example, if we wish to modify any part of the process, the digital footprint would be different and an alarm would be raised regarding this attempt to manipulate the information, right? And all this is linked to a time stamp. So we have several guarantees that allow us to verify that the process has been sound. Why are we so convinced that Telefónica and TrustOS is the best option to implement blockchain? One, because we are leaders in the industry, and so that's Forbes recognized, and we participate in different organizations such as Hyperleader, and in different consortiums and standardization organizations such as NCO. We have a technological maturity in the sense that we always include in our services the up-to-date versions with more support. We use market standards so that the solutions that our services and our platform integrate are as interoperable as possible. And we also offer a service guarantee of Telefónica to all at all levels. Let me now move to the success use cases. I would like to go through the different successful use cases that we have been working on and that we believe have validated the initial value proposition that I told you about at the beginning of my presentation. Let me speak about the first use case, the Vivo the Vivo delivery chain in Brazil. Vivo, or rather blockchain, provides value within companies, as you can see here. In the case of Vivo, within the distribution chain, there are several players. So it was extremely complex to find the critical points that were provoking bottlenecks and jeopardizing processes. So thanks to blockchain, the blockchain layer, we have a full traceability, big picture from the assembly of the devices all the way to the end, the installation of the devices at customers' households. So here we have the possibility of identifying critical points to then optimize the process and minimize costs. All this is done through the sensorization and the management of more than 4 million equipments, and the return on investment was 4 times the investment, and we reached the ROE in 1 year, the ROI in 1 year. So we achieved an end-to-end traceability process in 1 year. We're also working in solutions to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and this is another successful use case. We have an agreement with Biometrics. Biometrics is a device that I brought here for you to see it. In the framework of this collaboration, we aim at ensuring that all protocols and hygiene recommendations are being respected in organizations. So this is what I wanted to share with you live. This device, the biometric device, is equipped with NFC. So basically this is a hydroalcoholic gel dispenser, and here what I will do is to identify myself with my corporate card to receive a dose of this hydroalcoholic gel, and all this data is at the same time stored in blockchain. I have my corporate card here, and I'm going to show you now how it works. So, this is the Biometrics dashboard with a lot of very interesting information. Here's a map. And here are all the doses that have been thrown in the last hours. This is equipped with a dashboard, with Biometrics dashboard and TrustOS. Look here. Here is the device. Here are the different dosages offered. 9:45 when I was tested the system. I'm going to do a new discharge. I'm going to ask for a new discharge. Now, hop, there I go. Discharge. So now you should see here the digital footprint and the transaction footprint. As I said before, this is a hash, a cryptographic function that identifies univocally the dosage. And in this case, what we're registering here is that me, Cesar Rodriguez, because I have been identified through my card, I have acquired 0.9 milliliters of hydroalcoholic gel at 10:16. So if you try to hack the system and if you try to modify the information listed in the blockchain and try and manipulate the information and say that, let's say, I did my dosage at 10:15, the digital footprint would be totally different, and we could realize that something has not been running smoothly. So in this case, we're only registering the amount of hydroalcoholic gel and other minor items. But as you can see here, we could add information to monitor other parameters. Let's go back to the presentation. Oh, by the way, sorry, I would like to add something. Can we please go back to my computer? Oh, okay, as I told you before the presentation, the system generates a certificate with a list of all the transactions, and if you scan the QR code, you can have access to all the information of the different transactions that have been completed up to now. Look here, for example, we have a digital footprint here, the creation date, and here we have evidence that allow us to understand that the process has been sound. Let me tell you, or let me show you a more technical side. If you check here in the content, we are storing this is a dispensation identified by the and so on and so forth. The different dispensations that we have asked for. We can go back to the presentation. Apologies. So we're also working in digital ceilings to set a direct channel between producers and consumers. We install these ceilings in the end product so that end consumers can scan and have access to data on the production and distribution that the product has gone through. These digital ceilings are stored in blockchain, and they are unique for each product. So reproducing the ceiling, or the seal rather, would be impossible because it would be identified as a counterfeited copy. Now regarding document management, there are several operational processes that still are based on email documents exchange. Think about invoices or ticket resolution. Thanks to the adding that we have implemented for Outlook, we can leave evidence of all the different attached documents exchanged by different parts. So if we could, for example, get to know what document has been shared, what the version of the document has been shared with full security, or to what users the document has been sent. This is being used for several reasons or for several things, but probably the most interesting one would be to leave traceability of the documents exchanged in an NDA agreement, for example. Now, regarding the pandemic management, a lot has been, society is quite frustrated about the lack of transparency in the vaccines distribution, for example, or the preservation of the vaccines, the lack of information on the preservation of vaccines. So we introduced sensors in fridges, transport vehicles, etc., to have a full traceability about vaccine dosages. So we registered both the GPS positionment as well as all the different conditions and parameters that are essential for the vaccine's preservation, such as the temperature chain, luminosity, and temperature. Actually, we could do it now. We can print a QR code when your vaccine is shot to you. You should have access to the full information of the process that the vaccine has gone through. And I believe this would enhance transparency and trust. We can also identify critical points. For example, if we conclude that in a location the temperature has dropped, we could try and find so we could I would like to refer to the wire activation program. It is an initiative in which we have collaborated, and it has been very successful when it comes to achieving many successful use cases. Wire activation program is an initiative that offers the startups with access to Telefónica platforms, including all these technologies, so that startups can explore them for free. We participated with TrustOS so that startups can verify whether it makes sense to include blockchain in their solutions and thus explore different use cases. If you're interested about the program, at 11:30 we'll be at the hall and we'll be with the leaders of the program. We have invited a company, a startup that has participated in the wire activation program, and they will tell us more about their experience. Some of the cases that we have been able to produce thanks to this initiative are listed as follows. The CMR, the transport contract of, here we have registered all the events that merchandise goes through during their transport journey. On a track, in the past it used to be a physical document, and all drivers had to carry this document. So Wanna Track, the startup with which we have been working, has digitized the process, and not only the process, but also all the events entry and all the different sensors that provide information about what's going on with a specific merchandise in its journey. With a blockchain layer, we aim at solving all the disputes in the sector. There are many, many disputes in the sector, right? Because the amount of, or the number of middlemen in the transport chain is very long. So there are many invoicing disparities, and the blockchain layer allows us to delete these disputes. This is our company, Temas, working in industrial waste management. In Spain, there is a quite restrictive regulation in terms of waste management and treatment. So, in this industry, there are a lot of intermediary companies from the moment the waste is produced to the moment it is sent to the recycling plant, and the blockchain layer here aims at protecting the interests of each player and certified, of course. Then the PUCART DigiHeart solution is producing digital certificates identifying art pieces. These certificates are stored in blockchain, and they produce a physical document with the safety measures issued by the Fábrica Nacional de Moneda de Timbre with physical tags identifying univocally the art piece with a certificate. This is a way to protect intellectual property and the ownership of the art piece at each moment of the value chain. This is a very interesting case that reduces fraud in the sector. We're also working in the development of IoT integration solutions. Gas radon is a natural liquid gas which in high concentrations is very dangerous for health. It can entail severe health problems. Movistar developed this device, the My Sensor, to measure gas concentrations in closed environments. So the blockchain layer helps us validate the data, and we are also defining thresholds. So if the concentration of this liquid gas in a closed environment goes beyond the threshold, we can offer legal guarantees before any judicial process to prove that the thresholds have not been respected or have been respected, depending on the case, right? Yesterday, Andres Escribano and Hugo Escaete talked about smart agro solutions, such as the Onuba fruit solution, and they told us that the whole environment had been sensorized and fully controlled through different IoT devices. And they also talked about how to integrate other technologies to add value to these solutions. They talked about artificial intelligence and blockchain. Well, we are also working to provide traceability to all agricultural processes in order to optimize them and ensure that an end product is eco and sustainable. And this is the end of my presentation. I hope you found it interesting. We'll keep working as enthusiastically as always, and hopefully next year we'll have many more use cases to share with you. I think there's a question, which is, how do you ensure that the TrustOS data in IoT devices and all services are correct? This is an excellent question. Blockchain does not validate entry data. Blockchain validates the fact that they are immutable and that they are never going to change, but they do not validate entry data. Good practices or best practices, and our recommendation is that data should be registered closer to its origin. So if an IoT device issued a piece of information, it would be interesting that the radon device to connect with blockchain and send data there. Well, it depends on the use case, right? Perhaps data will have to be stored later in the process. We're working with different security providers that allow the implementation of methods and techniques to validate entry data. So that's it from my side. I think this was the only question. Once again, thank you very much to all of you, and have a lovely day. Oh, there's another question.
Sí.
Me gustaría preguntar.
I would like to ask you, what is the cost per transaction in TrustOS? I've arrived a little late. I've seen it's an agnostic platform, but what would be the cost? Well, of course, it depends on the use case, but we have different approaches in terms of invoicing. Say you need to develop an asset. You could even have a flat rate. It really depends on the volume. It can cost a few cents. It depends on the volume, of course. Oh, okay. This is the end of the session. Oh, there's another question. Good morning. So what has been the most relevant blockchain implementation in the health sector? In the health sector, we've been working in pandemic mitigation projects, hygiene projects, where we try to validate or offer guarantees about the situation in closed areas regarding COVID-19 by sensorizing hydrogel usage as well as cleaning tasks that all different actors have to implement to offer guarantees to different entities and organizations that request the services. So we have been working on this project, which I believe has been very interesting. It's included in the Telefónica catalog. Okay, now, thank you very much, and have a lovely day.